guys, today we have in our entrepreneurial room Robert Hutchinson. And as you know, we invite people to our room, successful people who are already in the business in order to share their experiences with folk who just right now just thinking about jumping or leaping to self-employment. So, Robert, please go ahead and tell us, please, few things about what was your last employment and yeah, everything what was before the jump.
Yeah, hi there, Alex, and hi everyone else. Yeah, I used to work in broadcast TV, so I worked in a major international broadcaster, and I'd always worked in television. I worked at the BBC, I worked at Channel 4, and I worked at the Discovery Channel. Before I left, my final role was Director of Network Media Planning. Um, and I was leading a team of 9 people with quite a fast-moving, fast-paced, on-air position within marketing department.
Okay, clear. And what is your current occupation?
Yeah, so now I'm an authenticity coach and I'm the founder of the Authentic Life Company. So I help people make positive changes to their lives and their businesses. I work with people to improve their self-awareness, to understand their strengths, their values and what's important to them. And then we identify together with clients how they can be much more successful by being more real, being more genuine and being true to themselves.
That sounds quite powerful directions. Sounds to me
Yeah.
like a spiritual, almost spiritual thing because awareness, I don't know, is that what Buddha was trying to help people to have? Awareness is a powerful thing,
Yeah,
and you chose that direction in your coaching business. Tell me, please, how did you come to that choice?
yeah, and you're right. On some levels, self-awareness can become very spiritual. And just going right back to the Greek philosophers 2,500–3,000 years ago, a lot of their work was around self understanding and
Yeah.
self-awareness. So the way I came to it was having trained as a coach. When I started practicing as a coach, I noticed that almost everything that clients presented with came back to some kind of self-awareness or a problem with aligning what they're doing, either in their lives or their businesses, with who they really are. So I kept seeing this come up as a consistent theme with clients. So that's how I focused in on authenticity as being a key element of my coaching practice and hence launching the Authentic Life Company.
Okay, all right. So it's quite clear. How much did you know about entrepreneurship before you decided to make that leap?
I didn't know a huge amount, to be honest with you. I felt very strongly that I did want to work for myself. Um, and I guess I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, even within a corporate environment. I was always a person who would be looking to try new things and to experiment with different ways of doing things and different approaches. So I guess I had an entrepreneurial spirit in terms of self-employment.
Mhm.
I didn't have a lot of experience, to be honest, but in my corporate career, I had been exposed to a lot of different aspects of business. So I'd been exposed to finance, been exposed to business development, and in television, I'd worked in marketing. So I had a really good understanding of marketing and branding. And I think coming into self-employment and coming into running your own business, I think marketing and branding is something that can't, the importance of that can't be stressed highly enough. So if you don't have any experience in marketing and branding, then that's something that you need to look very carefully at if you're coming into self-employment.
Totally agree with you, Robert, because in my experience also, as I'm running the business school for coaches, that's the major struggle.
Yeah,
And that's great that you had that experience already. Somehow your job was related to that areas before, so you had really good foundation to be
yeah,
successful. That's very nice.
that's
And
right.
tell me please about, because I'm really curious about emotional side of things. Did you have any doubts?
Yeah, of course, of course, lots
Yeah,
of doubt.
you are human after all. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest doubts were around loss of income and loss of security. That was certainly a big doubt. For me, when I actually left, I hadn't decided to become a coach yet. So for me, there was a huge question around finding myself
Mhm.
and finding what I was going to do in my new career. So I didn't actually leave with a big plan about what I was going to do. So it was, for me, it was definitely a leap into the dark. So I had to do that discovery, self-discovery piece myself.
That sounds interesting, really, because as from my experience, or if we put it in a very simple frame, people often make actions avoiding something or away from or getting towards
Yeah,
to. And when you
yeah.
said that you didn't have a plan what to do, it seems like your motivational part was getting out. Is it
Uh,
correct?
it, yes, it kind of was. I One of my issues with it, with being in the environment I was in, was that I couldn't see a future in corporate life for myself.
Hmm.
I really wanted to work for myself. And also I had a specialist, it was a very specialist role in TV. So although it exposed me to a lot of different aspects of business, it wasn't immediately translatable into another business. And I really knew that I wanted to better align what I do with who I am.
Yeah.
So what I was looking for is something that was sustainable into the future. That was one of the big drivers for me, was that I put in place something that's sustainable for 10 or 15 years into the future.
Sustainable and align with who you truly are. Yeah, is it correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was the main argument for. Sorry for interruption.
Yes, and there's a third piece there to put in here, which is age appropriate as well. Right now, I'm 46. So, I was looking into my 40s, my 50s, and beyond that. So looking for a business and a career that would be sustainable into the future and that would also be age appropriate.
Okay, okay, clear. And I also always ask everyone who comes in our room questions related to energy, because yeah,
Yep.
I'm some kind of curious. I do some also research about how entrepreneurs are different and what makes them different from people
Yeah.
who are just employed. And
Yeah.
tell me please, when you evaluate your energy level, of course it's subjective, but nevertheless, your
Yeah.
energy level in comparison to people around you, how would you mark your level from 1 is a low and 10 is the highest?
So right now, I'd put myself around a 9 or a 10.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you are in that category. Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty much the answer of all people who are successful in business, and somehow the energy very much related to your success, and energy very much related to the boldness and risk taking and adventurous spirit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I notice it getting up in the morning. I notice it when I'm talking about my work as well. I'm very passionate now about what I do. I'm interested in what I'm doing, and I'm very proud of what I'm doing now. And I notice that coming across in conversations.
Perfect. Great. So, in terms of fears, you mentioned, of course, normal kind of way of thinking about security and about how you will be able to pay the bills and other stuff. But tell me,
Yeah.
please, do you have any strategy to overcome those fears? Have you developed that?
Um, I think my biggest strategy has been working with a coach. So I when I took the time out, I kind of coached myself. So I worked out who who I really was and how I wanted to live and work. And I found that having a coach myself, because when you're self-employed, you're not working, you don't have a boss, and you're not accountable to anybody.
Yeah.
So I found working with a coach and a business consultant really invaluable. And there's been periods where either I've been too busy or they've been too busy, and I found there was a period earlier this year when I dropped it for 2 months, and I really noticed a drop in my overall motivation and energy without having that conversation with somebody else, which I think is a key part to being self-employed and being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you would summarize the certain steps which you believe is important for people to realize when they deal with the fears, what would you say?
For dealing with fear, the first step has to be to acknowledge the fear.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the fear and understand what the fear is. So, and you can write this down yourself. Write down actually what you're afraid of, and write down how that's manifesting itself in both your thoughts, in your mindset, and also in your body. Is that fear coming out as a physical sensation? So become very aware of what the fear is. And beyond that, taking action is the way to overcome fear. If you sit around thinking about it, then it will only get worse. And I think by taking any action, the fear that you've got starts to subside.
Okay, great. Guys, did you hear? There are two steps. One thing is acknowledging and recognizing that the fear is there and put a label, somehow kind of label on it by writing it down and name it. And
Yeah,
also recognize their manifestation, so how it comes out. And the same thing, and second part is to move into the action because that's how you can dissolve it. Is it correct if I
that's
summarize?
perfect. Yep, that's perfect. That's a perfect.
Okay, great. And so my next question is about like surroundings, because I know that circumstances could prevent us from doing something, or you could help us. And I'm curious about family, friends, how they reacted when you decided to quit and just move on your own.
I've had great support from my family and from my friends, and especially from my partner. So friends tend to be, I would say probably around 8 out of 10 of my friends are in similar situations
Hmm.
where they are perhaps, not fulfilled in their roles. They want to make changes. They'd like to move forward into more of a self-sufficient, self-employed, self-employed working situation. So a lot of interest from friends, I would say, and a lot of support from my partner, who can really understand the need for a future-proof, sustainable career.
Okay, okay, clear. So there was a support, and and as a result, you found yourself not alone because people around seems like we're struggling more or less with similar situations. Yeah?
That's right, yeah, and the piece about alone is so important because I think one of the big challenges of being self-employed is working alone and the isolation of it. So what I found, as well as the support from friends, is that I've created a big network. Luckily, I live in London, but if you don't live in a big city, you can network by email or Skype. But I live in London, so I've created a big network of coaches. And in the coaching world, there are a lot of people working individually, so it's really great to share experience, knowledge, and to even work together. To go out to a coffee shop or something, and even though you're working separately, just working in the same space with somebody it feels like you're part of a team, or you get that energy of working with somebody else. So I think it's vital to connect with other people when you're self-employed.
Great, great. Totally agree with you. I mean, and your answer resonates with me also because that's the first thing I created after graduated from coaching courses. It's like, okay, I need to have a space and community around me because to do
Exactly.
things on your own, even if you know what to do, still it's a very lonely place to be. I mean, an energy is supposed to kind of roll, and you need to exchange, you need to get new ideas, partners, and yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So, if you would evaluate your transition to self-employment on a scale of 1 would be really super stressful and 10 would be smooth and easy and painless, what
Right.
was your experience?
I I put myself in the middle. I think around a five, somewhere around a five.
Around 5. Okay, so you experienced both. That's great.
Yeah.
That made you perfect subject for me to analyze and investigate. So, tell me please few factors which made it stressful and few factors which made it easy.
Yeah. I think what's made it stressful has been transitioning my mindset around being self-employed. And people often think, oh, how wonderful it must be not to have a boss. Well, when you're self-employed, you have to be your own boss, and you have to be much harder with yourself than a boss would be.
Mhm.
And you can't make any excuses to yourself when you're working for yourself. You know where you are 100% of the time. You know what you're thinking 100% of the time. And you can't get away with anything. So it's a really different mindset. And it's actually, I would say, much harder to be your own boss than to have a boss. Working from home has been a challenge. Simply the fact that you have to get your head around creating a working space at home and being disciplined around structure and time. And as I just said, the isolation of working on your own as well has been a big challenge.
Yeah. All right.
In terms of factors that make it smoother, in my case, financing has been good. I got an exit package from my previous corporate job. I did some part-time consultancy, and I've had some savings, so that covered the initial gap. Um, Having clarity of thought and motivation, I think, finding a passion and a purpose, that's really helped with the motivation. Um, and as I said, again, having a coach and a business consultant to work with, that's really made the whole process a lot more smooth than it could have been.
Okay, that's clear. And about that finding your passion and somehow defining your direction.
Hmm.
Tell me please how quickly you've been able to do that.
So for me, that was a process of coaching myself effectively, and I looked at my strengths and I looked at my weaknesses. I looked at what I was really good at.
Hmm.
And a really great piece of advice that I got a few years ago was never underestimate what comes easy to you. We tend to assume what's easy is easy for everybody. Um, and whatever is easy for you, somebody else will find that hard. So I kind of listed my strengths and I listed things that came easy for me, and coaching kept coming up. So for me, originally I trained to be as a coach. It was the original plan was to really add an extra string to my bow, but as soon as I started coaching, I realized I had a really great aptitude for it. I was really interested and fascinated in it, and it highlighted how inappropriate my previous work and situation had been to me, and it made me realize, that there was a really clear future in coaching, and a lot of potential success at that point ahead for me in a coaching business.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. And this is really very, very precious thing to follow, guys. I hope you heard it clearly that defining and discovering your strength and
Mhm.
really pay attention what is easy for you and just get rid of assumption that it's gonna be easy for everyone because that's your golden, I don't know, horse, I would say, because That's could be, the main foundation for your business. As a result, helping other people to get in the directions which you find it easy. All
Yeah,
right, perfect. Thank you very much, Robert. And I would like just to ask, when you have right now that knowledge and experience of transition
yeah.
to self-employment, what would be the one main thing you would do differently? Yeah, tricky question, I know.
Yeah, I know the answer to this question, and that is allow for much more time. And as a rule of thumb, I would say work out how much time it's going to take you and then double it.
Mm,
So everything takes so much more time, especially when you're finding your way, when you're finding your feet, and you're working on your own. You have to do absolutely everything yourself, especially if you're used to having an assistant and you're used to having a technical department and a creative department, whatever field you work in. Um, you're doing everything yourself, and you're learning so much. So I would say allow double the amount of time you think it would be.
yeah, okay, so get real. I
Yeah,
think I think people underestimate also how much time it really takes. Especially, I agree with you. Especially when people are getting into the unknown territory, lots of learning, lots
yeah,
of lots of things to figure it out.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, I agree. And let's just jump to evaluation again. If you would say on a scale of one, I totally regret my decision to quit stable job, and 10, okay, I see the reaction, and 10, thanks heaven, I did it. So where are you?
yeah. I'd say I'm an 8 or a 9. I mean, no regrets. I certainly couldn't go back. Right now, I have a proof of concept and I can see massive success ahead. I'm not quite there yet, but there's no way I'd go back.
Yeah. And tell me, please, at that point where you are, what is the really major thing which already changed in your life? Like number one thing, I would say.
Oh, I'm much happier, I'm much more confident, and I'm much more energized about life and work.
Mhm.
I wrote a blog on the Huffington Post just a couple of weeks ago, and it was about fear. And I used to have a low underlining fear because I knew change was coming. I knew my job wasn't sustainable, and I knew my working life wasn't sustainable into the future. So I was always afraid of change and the unknown,
Yeah.
and that fear's gone now.
That's a powerful change. I agree. And you mentioned, as a true transformational spiritual coach, I think you mentioned the internal change as a most dramatic one. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
good to know. And I think we came to the end, and in order to summarize, I just want to ask you advice, number one advice. So the major thing which you would tell people what they supposed to be looking for when they about to change their lives and jump to unknown.
yeah, yeah. I guess my philosophy is it's better to regret doing something than to regret not doing something. So if you're thinking about doing something, it's probably pretty firmly in your head that you want to do that thing. So do it. Um, my main advice would be um, work out how you're going to finance yourself for and plan a 2 to 3 year buffer. So how can you finance yourself for about 2 to 3 years? And I can't stress strongly enough, if you're working on your own, you need someone to talk to and you need someone to be accountable to. So work with a professional coach or a business consultant.
Perfect. Robert, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much. Guys, we had Robert Hutchinson in our room,
Thank you.
in our project of becoming an entrepreneur. So it's a really pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much for your time. And
Thanks a lot.
we will be in touch. Thanks a lot, Robert.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alex.
Bye-bye. Bye.